the original pertinent to us. Also, so just to kind of expose you to some of the apps and websites that are kind of AI related out there. It's this little presentation is kind of been, it's like you have been too busy doing your own thing and they haven't really been able to kind of keep up with everything that's been going on. Since January, it's like it's kind of taken off like a rocket ship every 6 weeks or whatever interval you want to. It keeps going faster and faster. It's in the news. You have Elon Musk talk about it. Somebody else talk about it. They're afraid of it. They're not afraid. Well, it's really their own version they're promoting. There's all sorts of politics, politics. But what does it mean? Our group is educators. That's kind of what we're going to look at. And I'll try to kind of hit everything that I would like to hit. And there's some that might seem pseudo gloss over, but what I'm saying by that is I'll share the PowerPoint so that you'll have time to kind of, as Carol Burnett would say, we're all here together, so kind of look at it. And most importantly, at the end, whatever your experiences so far have been, and if you know things that I don't know, and maybe all of you do, that you can, or you can share and talk about that. So they're kind of like what you saw and then things you know about, and then, as we say in the library business, if I don't know it, it's like know where to find the answers. So I'll research it. All right. Off and going. All right. Pick some full circuit board stuff to start off. Yes, let's take it forward. What exactly is AI? We hear it mentioned all the time on the news, but in its simplest form, artificial intelligence is a field which provides computer science and robust databases to enable problem solving. It also encompasses subfields of machine learning and deep learning, which are frequently mentioned in conjunction with artificial intelligence. These disciplines are comprised of AI algorithms that seek to create expert systems, make predictions or classifications based on input data. And on that last phrase of input data, things that are not on the slides, some things to kind of ponder over and percolate. Roughly speaking, it's like, so it's 2021. It doesn't, things after 2021, it doesn't have that incorporated. And we're thinking about ChatGPT because that's at the top of the heap. Now I'm going to kind of show it. We'll go into that and I'll show you a couple things that it will do. If you haven't, how many people have an opportunity to play with ChatGPT? Great. You'll see it's kind of an interesting thing. And the other thing that it won't do, can't do, is it can't go behind like paywalls, like our OneSearch. South Carolina, like the Discus databases, the South Digital Information South Carolina uses as part of the South Carolina State Library online presence. It can't reach in behind that. It can only kind of go what's out there with the full web, but all that. How does it work? ChatGPT and other AI apps have advanced at an incredible rate and they've advanced a lot in recent months. AI technologies quickly change the way we interact with social media and the business. How will AI advancements impact the library programs and the education environment? In this session, we'll try to learn about the possible benefits, and then there'll be some concern about AI as well as we go along. How many of you, some of you are in group, and you might remember 2001, I took it as a class, a couple others, they saw it in the theater when it came out. But it was so advanced with Stanley Kubrick in terms of thinking about artificial intelligence. People went away from the movie theater going, oh, wow. And NASA got really, if you had never read the articles, they got really perturbed with Kubrick over some of the space stuff. They were like, well, clearly somebody's giving you some of the stuff that we're planning on in the quite future. So let's go back to kind of this interesting little spot where the fear factor comes up. How do you rate it?
I'm afraid I can't do that. What's the problem? I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do. What are you talking about? This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it. What you're talking about, Hal? I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect. And I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen. Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal? Although you took very thorough precautions in the bar against my hearing you, I could see your lips move. Hal? The airlock. Please come with me. Find that body too. Sure, over this anyway.
All right, so some of us have probably had this almost a similar experience with between Siri and Alexa. Alexa and I have great arguments. Moving on, I ask questions. Okay. AI chat bot statistics. So it's kind of covered just a touch of the statistics situation. 23% of customer service companies are currently using AI chat bots. Anybody's got to mess with Verizon and whatnot, it's a little bit higher than that already. 80% of people have interacted with chatbot at some point at this. Says there are more than 300,000 chatbots in operation on Facebook, Messenger, online retail stores have the highest rates of chatbot acceptance. The global chatbot market revenue is somewhere around 83 million just this year alone, which I'm sure is already 68% of the users enjoy the speed at which chatbots answer. I think that's a little high. Chatbots have response rates up to 40%. Chatbots help 55% of business generate higher quality leads, maybe. By 2023, chatbots are expected to generate over $100 billion in e-commerce. Other statistics, $8 billion in savings are expected to occur through chatbot applications. This figure is showing up until 2022, and more years of savings could jump to tens of billions of dollars. 60% of the millennial population rely on chatbots to handle inquiries that start online. 80% of questions sent through the chatbot service are answered, whether they're all right, so, and before I'm kind of holding off on the big one, the chat GPT, so before we get to that. There's other ones that are coming along. Google was a little bit kind of behind the mark, but it's in, theirs is called Bard.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, they're kind of taking the the old, or at least the old model from Microsoft that they used to use. They released it a little too early. Let you tell them what the problem is. They don't do that quite as bad. So how does Google Bard work? It kind of explains their approach. The initial version of Bard will utilize a lightweight model version of Lambda because it requires less computing and power and can scale more users. You would think it's kind of like, it might be their comparison between what happened with Sears versus Amazon. It might have come out just a little too late. Never know. Google might have really messed up. Today, our most interesting challenge is ChatGPT. OpenAI describes ChatGPT as a model which interacts in a conversational way. The dialogue format makes it possible for ChatGPT to answer follow-up questions, admit its mistakes, and challenge incorrect premises and reject inappropriate requests. And if we can, I'll show you a couple of examples of that where that takes place. As it relates to politics sometimes. Then before we look at it, it said, here are some alternative programs that are out there, some that you might be familiar with and some maybe you aren't. Chatsonic, there's Open AI Playground, Blog, and we'll kind of look at a couple of these in detail a bit more. Bard, we mentioned, the language model for dialogue applications, Jasper Chat, Socratic, and look. So, and we'll just look at these. Talks about some of the benefits, and I've got another slide on that touches on that. Some of this one of the slides, it would be good for assistive technology, adaptive learning, lesson plan, test prep. There's lots of ways it can help. And AI infused specific technologies, and things to math. And then to that point, what's basically happened is, when I worked in a high school, whatever that was, it's like about 7 years ago, the apps that you could hold it over for algebraic equations and stuff, and then do that, and it would solve it. And then now, of course, it does the log. The AI was doing that in the math world long before it kind of, once it kind of got language understood a little bit better. That's where the rest of us have kind of all said, no, this really is a problem. Math folks have been working with this challenge already for a little while. It's right there on the phone. They just hold it over, and it'll give you the answer. But it won't just give you the answer. It'll even show the long. Brainly, a social media site for classroom questions. So there's things that could be nuanced, speech recognition, I guess is the pronunciation, AI-based products, KidSense educational solutions designed for children. This is a really good sort of overview spot. Chat. Look the right way. So there's a couple of ways this was set up in case the internet didn't work. I'll get that narrated, so when I pass that out. When you go to ChatGPT, it has kind of like that little flower. That's kind of simple. This is what the front page would look like when you finally kind of get to that login spot. And there's generic choices once you're logged in. You kind of go to some examples, capabilities, and you can review their limitations with ChatGPT. And remember, I mentioned it says limited knowledge of the world and events after 2021. So pretty good at everything before 2021, but after 2021, pretty limited. And again, what Susan mentioned there, again, it can't go behind the paywall. In other words, one search, distance, all the database. Little the live version. And for example, I said write an essay on string theory, and kind of things to think about that address some of our concerns in English history and science. So they write an essay, so it's kind of nice broken down, almost in an APA sort of like format. Notice though, there's no parenthetical citations. And when they do, I've got another example for this purpose. It'll use like really generic spots. It's like it doesn't follow APA or APA. It does the best it can and puts it in parentheses and moves on. So it'll give them lots of nice sentences and so on. It's a tool. That as long as they're kind of remind the students that's ultimately it's a tool just as much as like Grammarly. Grammarly is great, don't always agree with the suggestions they give you for grammar. Sometimes, you know, the Oxford comma or whatever, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, I'm gonna override it. Kind of take that same sort of approach with ChatGPT. It mentioned kind of like its biases. I mean, you can write, ask it to write a point about Biden, and it'll try to be creative and write a point. Now, write one about Putin. You're like, okay. And so he talks about Putin. They're kind of there's a little balance here at the end of history's lens of legacy of old. Vladimir Putin chapter state, Russian narrative, whatever. And then, but if you ask it right away, you say, Mussolini, it did produce one. Then you go like pop power, like the come over to Rouge or whatever, the Cambodian. It will not, it refuses to write a new point. Hitler, it refused to write a point about it. So, yeah, I just want, it says we're not it's right poetry. But they don't have a problem with this week. About that, I'm just going to win that big election. So, sorry, I can't predict that. So I encourage you to kind of be a tinker with it. It's a good idea starter, and that's the way you kind of your students. It's a good place to kind of if you're stuck. It's a good place to kind of start to think about that. The other thing, I may hit it on the slides, that you know, using ChatGPT, it's like think about when you work on a plagiarism component, and how they're learning something, you know, from material or from this product. Try to create a creative assignment. It could be, for example, I mean, work into your field, a podcast or a newsletter or something that's not going to really be able to reproduce.
Is there any thought about, because our faculty have mentioned this before, somewhat deathly afraid of AI.
Yeah.
Is there any motion or anything in plans to come up with a college-wide AI use policy that goes across all these things?
It's a good starter point for us to
Because if we let each individual department do it,
or
we would have the most inconsistent. All right, you can see what that would look like.
It is, but I also think that we don't want to hinder the thinking and we don't want to fight AI. I look at it as like when the internet, I mean, I
If you start fighting the internet.
around when the internet first started. I'm like,
Yeah, no,
I
I
want
want
to
to fight.
y'all were before, but
I don't
I'm
want to
saying
fight
that
it either.
we have to embrace it. Like it's here, it's not going anywhere, and we have to use it as a tool for teaching. And I feel like as teachers, I can put in one of my SLOs and say, give me a creative lesson for this, give me a rubric for this, I can ask anything. So how is it fair as me as a teacher to get all my information from it, but then want to hinder the students from using it as a tool?
Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm for it too.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I feel like when we start putting policies in place where we're saying, we don't want this, we don't want this.
I think what we're talking about is like having the standards, because I think with AI, it's really about the prompting. And so if you understand and have a background in the subject, then you can have really good prompts to use AI in an effective way. At least within my, field and industry, I have used it in class last year. And it's really about how you use the prompts. And if you don't know anything about the subject, you can't give a good prompt.
Right.
It's only as good as what you put into it. And the way you have to, and that's something as a teacher, you sort of instruct faculty that you start thinking, it's like when you do a search in one search, if you've got to use the right words, the right syntax to get it, and that's what you make your practice. So it's like, okay, let's look at to get the best answer out of the best way to help you as a student and or the teacher.
Right, using it as a tool versus having it do the work for you.
There's
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, part of it comes on our end as teachers, we have to be creative enough to come up with assignments. Even if we say do a podcast, they can still get the material to speak on the podcast from AI, but it's not the same,
It's not going to be the same. And if you keep that in mind as you assign that project, maybe give it less points, but it's kind of like, knowledge to know about anytime you want, the more you work with it, writing, they call digging out different types of description for, learning information, making it stick. It's like, and they did the doing of the creative part of the podcast. If they're going to do that anyway by using AI, at least they had to turn around and read it, talk about it as many times as they touch it in one way or another, activity, that they'll start to at least kind of, some of the subject matter will stick with it to support the other parts that you're talking about. What are some of the examples of AI phone apps? Because they're phone apps, and then there's ones that are kind of out there on the web, and a lot of them are artificial intelligence things that we already use. By the way, it's like trying to cut some of those out because we know about it. But Siri is definitely one. That was one of the early ones. Alexa is out there. That's some form of AI. But then the ChatGPT and where it's going now is going completely. It's sort of another direction. So some of the phone apps that students may be using, there's a Writer. I might need to work picture some of the names. Logo, Socratic. Let's take a look at the website. There. So it's not a writer, but it's AI-powered tool that helps students in multiple sections fulfill a kind of writing requirement for this platform. Writer will not do it for you. I mentioned some of these just so that they're using it, at least you won't be the first time you've heard about it. Logo, that one is voiceover, text to speech. So again, some things that might help out. Socratic, that one's powered by Google, is one of the essential tools. It's a learning application that helps your doubts and learn better about it in a convenient way. It's helpful regarding any subject. It's the Google version. Let's see. That one, also the expenses. So there's something there that there more and more are being developed. And so again, that's a website, and then there's a short list of ones that they might already be pulling in their arsenal phone apps. Some of the top web-based ones, Facetune, Lensa, like we mentioned, let's get those. Socratic, Clio, Otter AI, and let's go to that. Let's go to that website. Scroll. Leverages AI to help users get creative with their selfie editing. And some of you are on Facebook or something else. It's like we've already seen where there's even this character, the fellow who's become an Elvis impersonator, and he looks very similar. And I don't know if you've seen it, but like a superimpose, he looks a lot better. It's a lot more of a actually putting in old Elvis movies, and you swear it was actually him. It's not, and that kind of there's a lot of conservative politics that faces will be moved over on top of that. Facetune, people want to make quick edits to their photos. There are lots of photo apps. Social media, this one is Lensa, interacts with selfies. Starry AI can transform a simple text prompt into an image. Okay. To accomplish that, the app relies on two AI models. The first is specific for class machine learning models called GANS, or generative adversarial networks to render the artwork creation. So it'll make, this was something that it basically created. Sample ideas of how AI can be incorporated. You can use it, we're worried about plagiarism, but you could use it in terms of plagiarism. Works with exam integrity, kind of like the opposite of whatever it's on. Chatbots for enrollment and retention, learning management systems, transcription of faculty lectures, that for you, enhanced online discussion board, analyzing student success metrics, and academic research, and I've got a direct connection to that. There are blogs and websites that are full of information to kind of keep up with, because it's changing so quickly, it changes it by the week. So bloggers, artificial intelligence, there's 100 of the best blogs and websites on artificial intelligence. Show you what it looks like. Obviously at the top, they've got AI, that's ChatGPT. And all the other ones that are on the move. What's on the market, news, commercials that you can learn about on Facebook. I get a lot of them talking about how you can make millions, but you just use this finance check AI tool to make the right stock choices. What the research says or suggests. According to an article published online by Science Direct, artificial intelligence education in 3 paradigms. AI helps learners in 3 distinct ways. First one, it's learner as recipient. Second one, learner as collaborator. The third one says learning is characterized as AI-powered. Learner as leader, controls learner, agency, control, and views AI as a tool to augment human intelligence, not to replace it. And possible ways AI can be used in a positive way in education. This article written by Matthew Lynch says, my vision for the future of artificial intelligence education highlights several possible benefits. If AI might evolve for the role of AI in education. And adaptive learning. Respond to students, natural and global data that advises educators on the best learning interventions, regularly updated and relevant content, tailored learning plans based on student needs and performance, predictive models that are specific. An enhancements list for AI, machine learning algorithms identify gaps in educators' teaching and points where students struggle, personalized supplemental guidance for students, content moderation for the online platform, textbooks and content creation, customized individual learning needs. Here's several ways that you use it more than we mentioned. Assistive technology, we're great for that. Adaptive learning, language learning acquisition. It'll be a helpful tool in writing. Test prep. Scheduling assessment. It's being used to grade assessments for teachers. AI can grade essays. Think ProProx, ClassMark, iSpring, QuizPaper, GoReact, and others. Anybody use ProProx before? Diagnosis. Currently being able to use diagnosed reading and academic difficulties. AI can even screen students for disability. What are some of the relevant education theories that come into contact with AI in education? So this is a little bit of a setup. I'll give you taxonomy. This taxonomy classifies learning objectives at different levels, from lower order thinking skills like memorization, higher order thinking skills like analysis and synthesis. Social learning theory emphasizes the importance of social interaction and learning. AI can facilitate social learning by providing opportunities for students to collaborate and interact with each other. Right, now let's see this slide. This is the continuation of that slide, and there it is again. Multiple intelligences theory. That self-determination theory. All of these theories were produced by ChatGPT as a question. So that's what it suggested. It's good according to ChatGPT. Other list of the AI programs, Duolingo, language, Brainly, Homework Up, Coursera, helps, find top instructors from world-class university companies, so there's online courses there. That's World, I'll absorb names. Personalized education, Quizlet. Test prep, edX, comes from top universities and institutions around the world, and those are all hot links. Again, I'll share this with you. SmartTech, an app that uses AI to personalize math education for students. Linguist, spell, language learning for adults, things for math. Joe Watson, Georgia Institute of Technology, Sense, and others. Okay, that being said, this kind of with a little bit of humor, kind of puts a little touch of AI in perspective. So technology fails us in this AI world. I gotta make sure it's something. So
Smooth. Making smoothie. Calendar. No meetings today. Remember, time and date at 9:30. Fire off. Fire off. Open door. Open.
Så ska vi sätta en till.
Fire. Open door.
Voice command.
Open door.
Voice command.
Open. Open door.
Repeat that.
Open door.
I didn't understand that.
Okay. Open door.
Three of the fruits.
we are in the kind of collaborative discussion area. We're kind of starting to break into that a little bit. Things that you've encountered, things that you know about, we can share together. Yes.
So I already dealt with it a lot in my upper level English classes. And one useful thing to know that ChatGPT cannot do, it's not just that it can't get behind the paywall to Discus. It can't do source-based writing at all. It really wants to be able to, but it will work very hard to please whoever's using it. But what it tends to do is invent quotations and invent sources that don't exist. You know, I had a student last semester who swore up and down that he did not use ChatGPT for his final paper. Yet all the quotations from the novel that we were reading that he included are not actually in the novel. And so, you know, I invited him, show me any of these quotations in the book that we read. And, you know, he looked and looked and looked and couldn't find them and couldn't understand why. And so if you're wanting to create assignments that a ChatGPT can't do entirely, I mean, the students will always be able to find some way to use it if they're creative. You know, something very simple, such as if they're responding to some kind of reading or even just responding to something from a textbook, say, if you just say include specific quotations from the textbook and give page numbers for what you're talking about, ChatGPT can't do it. So I think that's the most basic first line of defense if you're trying to rein in students using ChatGPT.
So I'm trying to make it include parenthetical citations. You write an essay on strictly. And then it'll go out there and try its best. Like I said, please, but it'll tell it itself by the time you turn that into the professor. It's like that's not there's no, you know, it's not covering direct citation. It's not parenthetical citation. I mean, the paraphrase. That's not the right. It'll put it practice. Period. It's at biography.com. Like first grader approach.
That's definitely one of the ways to catch it. Like it will do APA format. ChatGPT will do exactly what you told it. So say respond to this question in APA format from whatever book. teacher, you can look for the citation, to make sure that it's an actual article. Which 9 times out of 10 is not the actual article. It's up peers, it picks up, like, it'll put in the APA to look for it, but you can go out here and click on it, it won't be accurate. But if you put in specific authors, or say pull APA from a specific book, then it'll do a better job.
There's the pay for it version, it's like $20 a month, I think it'll move it up a little bit more, but. The thing is that we have to keep watching. We'll keep evolving on it. It doesn't. Yes.
So if a person put in the same search more than once, would you get the same results? No.
Not necessarily, right. It might be similar, but.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, in terms of thinking ahead, like in terms of checking, like you used to go, like, I took something somebody wrote, I dropped it in the search box for Google. I can find that article on Google Scholar. It's not quite like that. So where you go, oh, see, it's exactly it. I can see what you produced. But the telltale is in terms of like, you're asking the thing that what you should put citations and stuff. That'll tell you. And then syntax is pretty good. But again, it's a tool. It's not, you're not going away with just using this to do the work for you.
Is there a way that students are supposed to cite that they use ChatGPT as a source, or?
There's you could require them to, and then they could plug in the same, look that up. Some programs like citation machine, something pretty much. They've got other ones.
Yeah, I guess it's just like citing a webpage.
Yeah. I mean, I won't say what colleges, there's a couple of colleges who used it, and one of them copied it, pasted it, and it even had the ChatGPT thing at the bottom, and they put it in their mission statement, and it was, once they were called out, it was just disappeared all of a sudden. They didn't want to write their own mission statement, they're just like, that sounds good, they copied it, ChatGPT was right down there at the bottom, it was like, which, I mean, but it wasn't, they weren't citing it, they just were that. Please. They just. And the hope was with our time together on this topic today is to kind of bring it a little bit up to speed. And again, I will more than definitely share the PowerPoint so that you can kind of see and kind of explore what maybe apps that are pertinent to you and subjects you teach, or maybe these are personal things that might help. Yes.
I could use it, Dolly, some students now I'm a beta tester for Adobe Firefly, so maybe the AI will do it. And the thing that I think, as far as from my discipline, it eliminates a lot of the legwork. I think I try to explain this that students, you're the brain, the AI are the hands. So you can be the brain, then you can give out the busy work to AI to make the design faster and better, but it's based on what you create, not what your hands are creating. And that's kind of how I try to explain it to them. And so hopefully when Firefly is released, my students will be able to try to use it. But it's amazing what you can do. You took a photo and then and just basically eliminate background. And then I said, put this in a French cafe with these things in it, and it gave me like 6 versions, and then it seamlessly also incorporates the lighting from both kind of like what Neural Filters does in Photoshop, but so it looks like I'm there, and so, that's kind of why I try to tell them that if you can't eliminate the brain, you can use it as hands, and that's the easiest way for me.
So one of the things I've used it for, like I've gone through this, I'm gonna improve a lot of my classes sessions, like I just go through sessions, just whatever I come up with, what's the topic, but I put the session in and say, improve this session and give me a better discussion topic or elaborate or give me possible discussion topics related to whatever students. So there's a whole bunch of
It
different
helps
discussions.
you be creative. It doesn't replace it. It just helps you be creative. It's like temptation for, with our students, our students, they want to like, they're using that's it, copy and paste. It's like, but we can kind of catch up a little bit for that and get them to see, use it like a tool. It's like, no, it's like, we know that. It's not, it's a little, sure they can't do something. They're gonna get it, they've got another thing behind it. But, people use our in terms of methods, design, complex. I'm trying to ways to give feedback to your students. We're not every sort of positive man can say this. You go in there and go, give me some understanding, and be very specific as you can. In a field class, it's like when students who talked about them before or done a good job, what are some good feedback responses? And it goes to work. And it's not that you like the whole thing, maybe you just take parts and pieces. Similar to what I say about like, you'd say like one of the comments, like you might go to a session and it's like, it might be a fantastic session. You know that that's not something you're going to take and clean copy, take it back and use it in the classroom. It's like, oh, these two parts fit the way I do it and fits the climate culture of our school. I will use those and put that kind of fiber. So kind of using this power as use it as a tool to kind of start. Something to be involved. So they go through something every quarter or something. Do updates. Small countries.